Soul Calibur was the first PlayStation fighting game I ever got, specifically Soul Calibur II, and I absolutely loved it. But when I got a PS3, I had a new question to ask. Which Soul Calibur game do I get? Do I get number 4 or do I get number 5? Because the ratings for the games were kind of mixed. Now, I wasn't sure at first, so I decided to do some research and actually try to legitimately compare the two games and see which one was actually better. And the problem is that there wasn't exactly a lot of professional articles that actually debated which game was better and which game was worse. So I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to compare Soul Calibur IV to Soul Calibur V. First, let's start with Soul Calibur IV, and of course, the obvious, the single-player mode. There's different modes that you can do, including the Tower of Lost Souls. That mode is basically built around different scenarios with different handicaps that forces you to fight different opponents. Now, Soul Calibur III had Chronicles of the Sword, and Soul Calibur II had Weapon Master mode. And these modes actually had a genuine story, there were unique characters and character-specific objectives that you had to complete. There was a lot more thought and effort put into these extra modes, and I think they were done far better than the Tower of Souls. And of course, there's also the training mode. Now, how does it work? Pretty simple. It shows you the different swings and slices and slashes, which is high, which is low, which is medium, how much damage it does, how much its damage is being done to you, and of course how many combos you do. As for the move list, you have to actually press start and bring up the move list in order to access it. The good news is that once you do that, it isn't just a matter of you looking at the moves that you can do. No, you can actually press them and voila! You get to see them done on screen for you. That's handy. That's useful. And yes, training mode explains what all of the terminology is for the uninitiated in case you're confused. The controls really aren't that bad at all. The game's quite easy to be jumped into, and if you hadn't figured it out just by looking at the video, it looks very good. But let's move on to the character creation. Now, first things first, you can alter the canon characters of the game and change their appearance to an extent. Now, you can change up their colors, and you can also make it so that they can have special items that they can hold on, which will give them a special boost. But you can't, unfortunately, change their natural armor. You can't give Yoshimitsu a different type of jacket, you can't give Nightmare a different type of armor. Nope, nothing quite like that, though you can change the colors to have them be anything you want, which is quite a nice touch, personally. I've been waiting for a Soul Calibur game that allowed me to do this kind of thing. But of course, all of you want to find out about how you create your own character. For starters, choose male or female, and then base your character off a certain fighting style imitated by one of the other canon characters, from Rock to Nightmare to Siegfried to Yoshimitsu to Cervantes, and then everybody in between. Once you've done that, you then are going to get a chance to choose its design more fully. You can choose whether they'll focus in on close combat or faraway combat. You can choose the kind of armor they'll work best in, and of course the alignment, whether they'll come across as good or evil, you know, all the basics. Once your character has been randomly generated, you can start to actually customize them more fully. You can change the hairstyle, you can change the overall armor that they're wearing, you can change bits and pieces of the armor and the attire that they have, and of course you can buy new stuff for your character to wear by winning games and matches in-game and spending in-game money. You don't have to spend actual real money in order to greatly customize your character. You can do all that just by playing the game and being good at it. And yes, you can change the colors of your character's clothing in any way you'd like. So there's an extensive amount of customization that can be done for your creative character. It's really very nicely done. You can also choose how muscular or fat or skinny or tall your character is. You can also choose what type of voice you want your character to have, altering its pitches, whether it's a boy or a girl, how they sound. There's a wide variety of customization options. And of course, there's the museum. This allows you to see the extra features that are in the game, from illustrations to the art galleries to character endings and special movie intros to how every single character relates to each other within the game. And this includes, yes, character bios and the like. And all of it's very extensive and very nicely done. So I compliment Team Soul Calibur on this work. So nicely done, guys, nicely done. These are good extras to include. Now, you may personally not like them, but I like being able to see all the little extra stuff that the creators of the game put in. I like it when they're able to show off. I like looking at illustrations and trailers and stuff like that. It shows a little extra homemade touch. And for those of you wondering, yes, your customized character will in fact still look customized even in the endings. It's not just there for the fight scenes, which I think is, again, another nice touch. So once again, thank you, Team Soul. Very nicely done. And what are some other extras you're going to get to enjoy? Why, playing as Yoda and Darth Vader, of course. That's right. You get to use the Force, and Darth Vader gets to choke a bitch. And of course, there's a nice selection of options that allow you to change the level of computer difficulty, how many battles you have to do, and how long the battles last in arcade and story mode. So that's another nice touch. But of course, what about Soul Calibur V, I hear you ask? Well, let's just start off with the basics. What's the story mode for Soul Calibur V, and how does it compare to Soul Calibur IV? Well, let me tell you something. You're gonna wish that the story was as epic looking as I just made the opening sound. See, in Soul Calibur IV, the entire story revolves around the origins of Soul Edge, the evil sword that's been causing all the havoc that's been going around in the Soul Calibur series. It focuses on basically the sort of creator of Soul Edge, a man named Algol, who has incredible power and who's basically trying to sort of come back from the dead and to sort of reclaim the kingdom that he once had, because he feels he'd be a great dictator. He could finally bring peace to the world. He's going to bring an end to the horrors of Soul Edge once and for all, and you kind of got to defeat him. Well, that is if you're playing as a good character. You got to sort of put his soul at rest, finally destroy Soul Edge once and for all, and bring peace to the land. Every single one of the characters gets their own custom ending, and that's very nicely done. Okay, well, most of them are well done. So how does all that compare to the story of Soul Calibur V, I hear you ask? Well, Soul Calibur V story mode is episode-driven, focusing on the children of one of the series' main characters, Sophitia, who was the sister of Cassandra. And the characters it's focusing on are Patroclus and Pyrrha. Patty Boy, as you can see right here, is sort of the most main character, a bit more so than his sister, and I have to admit, the designs in this game are not exactly that appealing, especially because Pat here is kind of an asshole. I'm sorry to swear like that, but he's really a very unlikable, smug, pretentious kind of person. I am a holy warrior! Know my might! I'm no dog! I'm a holy warrior! I'll kill you! I'll kill you to death! God, I can't stand him. And by the way, no, they don't exactly have their mother's moveset. And where is their mother? Oh, she's dead now. Yeah, she's dead. And in case you were thinking you can't possibly dislike this kid anymore, well, see, it gets worse. Because guess what? In his effort to get rid of the malfested, he murders people. The guy has been straight up murdering people, evidently for years now, in the name of cleansing the town of demons disguised as humans. Eventually, somebody finally stops his murdering rampage and tries to put him in his place, calling him out for his disgusting behavior. And yet, this is the guy we're supposed to agree with. And I know what you're all thinking, that Siegfried, the former Nightmare, was a killer too. The difference is that Siegfried was possessed by an evil demonic sword. Patroclus doesn't have that excuse. He's not possessed. He's just a jerk. And he's a whiny jerk. I don't want to play as him. And unfortunately, Pyrrha isn't really that much better. She's unfortunately kinda sorta possessed by Soul Edge, and because she's meant to be sort of like the new vessel for the evil sword, Tira has been sort of acting as a mentor character, and the psychotic ring blade wielding girl has been looking out for her. In the same way Scar was looking out for Simba. And because poor Pyrrha is inhabited by Soul Edge and its spirit, this means that she'll unfortunately let her evil side slip out, and she'll kind of start slaughtering people. The problem is she's sort of a wimp. Pretty much all of her moves kind of come off as jittery and nervous, and like she's afraid to so much as pick up her... Yeah. Her grab is taking hold of someone, falling backwards, and they accidentally fall on her sword. That's the kind of person she's like. Anyway, eventually Patroclus finally hunts his sister down, beats the crap out of Tira, and yeah, if you do just the right kind of damage to somebody, you can knock huge chunks of their armor off and leave them very nearly naked. Now, this feature was in the last game, but they added more to it in this game. But let's try to focus on the other modes. Let's see if we can pick up the slack in other ways. The training mode is pretty darn much the same as the last one, with showing the damage, the types of buttons to press, whether it's high, low, or medium, and there's a few new added bonuses that have been put in. Well, I say bonuses, more like extra moves of a sort. You see, they're called critical edges. They're sort of kind of like a super move. They're pretty darn difficult to pull off, so this game is very offensive based. So it's slightly harder for beginners to jump into this game than it was for Soul Calibur IV. Legendary Souls mode is a way to unlock new characters and bosses and the like that you wouldn't be able to play as normally, but it's not available to you at the beginning of the game, which means you can't play as Keelik or Cervantes or Edgemaster, and yeah, that sucks. Let's try moving on to the character creation, and I do have good news. Character creation is even more extensive than it was last time, and last time it was pretty darn extensive. You can, of course, adjust regular characters of your own, or create an original character based off, again, canon character's fighting style. You can choose whether to be a boy or a girl. You can choose the height that they have or their basic body type. You can choose the structure of their face, the type of hair that they're going to have. There's a wide variety of equipment. And yes, you can even change how their muscles look in ways that make them look positively freakish. For example, take a look at this. This is me adjusting the upper arms, and only the upper arms. Whoa, I'm like Guts Man. It's so creepy and strange, but there's so much fun to be had. And as I just said, there's a wide variety of different faces and hairstyles for you to choose from. So there's a lot of great customization options, and quite a few right now available for download, which are absolutely free, and yes, if you want, you can go check them out. You don't have to build up in-game gold or anything to buy all of this stuff, so that's nice. And be it eyebrows, beards, or even tattoos and little signs that you want to put up on your clothing, you can add all that, and you can adjust your voices to whatever tone or pitch you like. So let's take a look at some of these customization options in terms of what type of equipment we get to have. We do have pre-built assets that, or rather pre-built customization sets that you can add, or you can completely randomize it to get some very freakish looking stuff. Okay, get some clothes on, dude. Although I loved that eye patch thing he's got. You can adjust the manner in which his weapons will impact with other people and the type of explosion it'll set off. You can alter the colors of the hair, the equipment, all sorts of great things. One problem though, you can't exactly give them stuff that will, well, that is, you can't like add in extra equipment that will provide a boost to their abilities. I mean, yes, you can give them different weapons, but the equipment in of itself won't actually alter like your strength or your special moves or anything, so that's gone from the last game. I'm kind of disappointed. But what about the arcade mode, I hear you ask? The arcade mode is one of the biggest reasons people play Soul Calibur to begin with. What's that like? Well, there is an arcade mode, and there's a pretty good variety of characters to play as. The problem is, though, that one, again, it's kind of lacking, and a few characters you really want to play as you can't. For example, I really wanted to be able to play as Kilik from the ground up. Instead, he's been replaced by this guy, who's basically just a stereotype of the overexcited Monkey King-esque type character who only cares about food. Yeah, this guy stole Kilik's moveset. He's his replacement for this game. He's not even that well designed. And his name is Zeba. Zeba, really? And for those of you wondering, no, there's not exactly a big fancy boss for you to beat. Yeah, there's Nightmare, but I fought Nightmare in the last game. And on top of that, I got to fight Algol, who could hover off the ground. He could blast me with energy and stuff like that. He had fascinating moves and a pretty cool design. But this, not so much. Not to mention the fact that the ending for arcade mode, well, guess what? There is no ending for arcade mode. There's no special endings for the canon characters. None whatsoever. None! I want you to think about that. In every single other game in the Soul Calibur series, there were individual, specialized character endings for every single one of the main characters that you got to play as in the arcade mode. Even if you didn't exactly like the story behind the main game, there were at least individual endings that kind of made it feel worthwhile. From the first one, Soul Edge, to Soul Calibur, Soul Calibur II, Soul Calibur III, Soul Calibur IV, all the characters had individual endings. and you know, they even had individual openings. There's no real individual openings nor endings. There's no real arcade mode in Soul Calibur V. That's one of the biggest reasons people got the game. It's not just about playing online against other people. Don't get me wrong. Multiplayer is a big part of a fighting game, but it's not the only part. A lot of us do, in fact, play a fighting game to enjoy a nice story and to be able to see the little movies at the end of the game that we got to achieve because we earned them by fighting through all these different characters. We want to be able to see that. And we really can't in Soul Calibur V. The only thing we've got is the main story mode, featuring two whiny kids who really aren't up to snuff with their mother, who basically just gets killed off screen in probably one of the most disappointing treatments of a fan favorite character in the Soul Calibur series. We don't even get to see Sephidia die. We don't even get to see that. And you saw how the main story is presented in hand-drawn stills that aren't even that good. I mean, if they'd done the whole thing in the CGI, that might be fine, but it's not. So, the question is, which one of the games is better? Now, I know that Soul Calibur V did have a few problems when it comes to production. There was some production troubles, and the game was sort of rushed out. But there hasn't been any kind of patches or DLC that fixed any of the stuff that I just brought up. So, ultimately, I have to say, when you compare the two, if you want a better multiplayer experience, then Soul Calibur V might be right for you. But if you want a better single-player experience, then I recommend Soul Calibur IV. And overall, I have to say, I kinda like Soul Calibur IV better because it allows me to play as my favorite characters right off the bat. And it has a pretty good story mode in comparison to Soul Calibur V, and it actually has additional modes and extras in comparison to Soul Calibur V. Soul Calibur V just came up too short in too many ways. So, I thank you all for joining me. And until next time, take care of yourself, okay?